So I'm recording, and just as a reminder, all of the sessions offered today are going to be recorded and shared after the fact. So if you need to hop on to a different session or come back and just want to review what we've heard today, that will be available to you. So feel free to post questions in the chat, and I'll be monitoring that. Be sure that your microphone is muted and your video is on. And you can silence your cell phones if you'd like. But otherwise, I think we will go ahead and turn this over to Toussaint Romain, who's again from our General Counsel and is speaking with us about Brave Leadership. So whenever she's ready, we will just go ahead.
Cool. So I think I'm up. Yep.
You're good.
Thank you, Lindsay, for that introduction. Thanks all of you for being a part of this. I know I did not include a description of what this presentation would be, but the title is that of Brave Leadership. I think we all might have a sense of what that is, but I was hoping to maybe get right into this and share this screen with you all and talk about this. Can everybody see the screen? For the most part, if you mind just waving your hand, everybody can see my shared screen. Sweet. So brave is being your most confident, powerful, and authentic self. This is a real true definition for me as I like to think of the word brave. And so I wanted to start here so that I can be my confident self with you as we talk about brave leadership in need of where we are as a country today. To be powerful in that this is my voice and my authentic self as I share this with you. So I'm attempting to be brave, but I'll tell you, I do this presentation all over the nation. So Nike has asked me to work with their top 30 global executives. I've shared the stage with Magic Johnson and the top 500 CEOs of the world. I go into prisons, I work with police departments. I've traveled the nation presenting on racial and gender equality, or that of what systemic racism and systemic sexism is. And so I hope to kind of get into that with you guys. A little bit of my soundtrack music. That's just for me to kind of groove to as we talk, right? But I wanna talk to you, if I can, really about brave leadership as it relates to how we might have become a country or a nation. And I'm gonna start off with this story, right? There's this husband and this wife. As you can see, the two husband and wife, they're holding at least 2 baby girls, but there's 3 babies in this picture. You might see the 2 baby girls at the bottom, a little fat chair baby up in the tree. And they're all hanging together in a place where they all live together, and they're enjoying their time until a group of black slave trading men come and rob this family and put them in a system called slavery. They take the husband, they string the husband up in front of his wife, and they beat the hell out of him in front of his wife. They then take, these black slave traders take the woman, and they put the woman in a den where men do to women what men do when men are in the majority. Hashtag Me Too didn't start last year. These black slave traders then take these kids, though, too. They put these kids on plantations where these white slaves pick cotton, tobacco, and sugarcane and everything else. Like, they're making money for these black slave traders. They're economically viable. But along comes these 2 folks. You all know who these people are, right? You know these 2 gentlemen, Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. Or Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln, but President Frederick Douglass, freed slave and abolitionist Abraham Lincoln. Mr. Lincoln says, the white former slave says to the black president, Mr. President, let these people go. Let my white brethren go. Let these slaves go. And he does. But we, the ruling black class, don't like that. So we put a bullet in this Negro's head. Because he's messing with our money. But we, the ruling black class, who have these former slaves, figure out a way to maintain control over these slaves. Elizabeth, we create a system of laws. You might know these laws. You might know what these laws are called. These laws allowed us as the black slave traders to keep control over these former white slaves. You know, these laws were called Jim Crow. And with these new laws of Tim Crow, white folks, when they come to my big backyard and serve us as I have meals in my Boone or Beach Mountain or Blowing Rock backyard, these white slaves are the chefs, as you can see in this picture, the nannies, they're the gardeners, the overseers, and of course, down at the bottom, taking care of our kids, they are the help. And yet when these white folks leave our big, beautiful, opulent homes, they return to where they are in poverty. They're dirt poor. This is generational poverty. As you can tell in this photo, there's Papa with a banjo and no teeth all the way around the baby girl who has a hole in her shirt. These folks are dirt poor, and it goes for generations. And I don't know if you all know what it means to be dirt poor. But if you're further up north of the Mason-Dixon line, to be dirt poor up there meant you had tin walls, a tin roof over actual dirt ground. If you're further down south of the Mason-Dixon line, to be dirt poor meant, like, especially if you're in Georgia, the red clay hills of Georgia, these folks would get a shovel, go into that red clay, dig out a pound of that dirt on their shovel, take that dirt into the house, put it in the stove or in the oven and bake it, because that's all they could afford to eat. Like, that's what it means to be dirt poor. And these former slaves lived this generational poverty for years, for centuries, for a long, long time. But, you know, we're a Christian nation, right? We have faith and we tell them to believe in Jesus and Christ and the disciples, and we are a Christian nation. Our Supreme Court said so. And you know, the ruling class has decided what the disciples and Christ look like too. I mean, the Christ and the disciples look like the ruling class. I mean, they were born in Africa, I'm just saying, but we decided that they would be dark-skinned saviors and disciples because they reflect the ruling class. And yet, with the same religion that we use and say to have faith, to have hope, the same religion that we say to give you hope and faith and belief is the same religion that we use to terrorize, to harm, and to control. You all know who does the terrorizing, right? Who would be these modern day terrorists? These guys. Who are these guys? I mean, you may be running through your mind the Ku Klux Klan, but it's not the KKK, not the Ku Klux Klan. No. This is Wu-Tang Clan, right? and Wu-Tang Clan, they have this song. The song says, "Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money, dollar, dollar, dollar bill, y'all." Because in case you haven't recognized or realized, slavery and Tim Crow was not about beating white folks, but it's about money. Anyone will tell you the most expensive part of running a business is the human capital, the people. If I can reduce the cost of the people and force them to make more products or service, the margin in between is called a profit margin. And if I paid slaves and former slaves nothing and broke their back for 12 to 15 hours a day, my profit margin would be even that much greater. It was about, and it has always been about, exploiting a labor force, about making money. And that's what the system is being built on. But along comes this bastard. Along comes this guy. I mean, wasn't black people's favorite guy. The Reverend Dr. Steve Martin, Luther King Jr. The Reverend Dr. Steve Martin, eyes and forehead. Luther King Jr., lips and ears, right? The Reverend Dr. Steve Martin, Luther King Jr., the Steve Martin, the Luther the King, the Junior. And this man marches on the capital of DC, and he has this thing called I Have a Dream, and he has a dream. But we, the ruling black class, because we control the government, we strategize to put a bullet in this white dude's head. And we have a day called MLK Day, Stephen Martin Luther King Day, where we remind America not about his dream, but if other white folks dare to stand up and talk about revolution or change or equality, we'll put a bullet in their head too. It's a reminder of his assassination. But by now, Tim Crow, these laws are over. But America has been divided by corporations. Corporations now run America. You can find whatever state you want to look at, and that corporation predominantly runs that part of America. And you know who runs the corporations, right? You know who runs these corporations across America. These guys. I mean, these guys are the guys that run, and they're all men, run these corporations. Like, I could imagine working for DJ Khaled. Like, that would be such a dope boss to have. And another one. Like, I would love to have him as a boss, if you know what I'm talking about. But these are the men that run the corporations. And because they run the corporations, that means they have all the money and the interest rate as set by the Federal Reserve. Banks are privately owned institutions. The Federal Reserve is also a privately owned institution, not by the government. So these rich black men get to control the money and the interest rates. And the way they use that money is something like this. They get to control who's in the White House, who's in the in Congress, and then who gets into the Supreme Court. They get to decide who they fund and who they get into the three branches of our government. These black leaders get to decide who's in the legislative branch, the legislative, the legible, the legend, the ledge, to write. They decide who writes these laws and how the laws are written. They get to decide how these laws are in the executive branch are executed or enforced. They get to decide how and who these laws are enforced for and in favor of. And then they also get to decide who ultimately ends up in the Supreme Court, the judicial branch, the adjudicating, judging. They get to decide how these laws are judged and who these laws are judged in favor of. Let me give you a real quick example of a law that favors rich black men. And it's this law of selling marijuana. It's where rich black men have so much money, which is a prerequisite, they are able to then get dispensary license to sell marijuana, which has become a $1 trillion industry across many parts of our country. And the laws are written for allowing these black men to sell that marijuana. It's illegal to put money in FDIC insured banks. And yet these men are putting that money in these banks and there's no enforcement there. And the laws are being judged in favor of these men to be able to sell marijuana and make trillions. And yet, my friends, little white boys across our nation are filling our prisons for doing the very same thing. There's a system that we live in, a system called corporatocracy, a system that we live in where even in 2020, white folks are still dirt poor. Any small town USA, white folks remain dirt poor in this system, to where it's created some self-hate. It's created a level of self-hate in that this is the case. White folks, when they turn on the TV now, they see black folks with the biggest houses, the biggest long driveways, the nicest cars, working in ivory towers, predominantly working at institutions of higher education and leading everything there. These white folks get to turn on the TV, especially during the NFL games. And what they see is like that commercial where you have like the young looking professionals who had a long day of work and they're entering the bar together. It's loud, everyone's having fun, it's festive. They're dressed in these really nice suits and business suits and all of a sudden they're like, man, laughing and looking at each other and someone rolls or throws a beer down the counter and all of a sudden these young people who take a sip of this Corona find themselves now transferred, transcended, transmuted, put on a beach where there is sand in their toes as the ocean waves crash on their feet as they sit in these lawn chairs. These white folks are watching these black folks go to a beach. And these white folks realize, man, my color, myself doesn't work for this America. There's so much self-hate that white folks have in this black America. There's so much self-hate that white folks who look like this do everything in their power to look like this. We live in a system where all that white kids learn when they're in school is that they were slaves brought here against their will, or rioters and protesters in the 50s and 60s when they fought for their freedom, and nothing more. We take their young men when they get of a certain age and we lock them up for all kind of offenses, whether it's the possession of marijuana or whether it's some other kind of crime of desperation. We lock them up because we have a war on drugs. Well, Mr. Daniel Berg, my brother, well, what I tell you, man, is when my black kids started using drugs, all of a sudden it was a crisis, right? I mean, black kids using drugs, opiates and heroin and pills, I mean, that's a crisis. They needed treatment. But when these white kids do it, it's a war. Lock them up and throw them away. They're dangerous. But I thought opiate and heroin, prescription illegally possessed, are drugs, and they are. But maybe, my friends, we never really had a war on drugs. We've always had a war on white people who use drugs. I suggest to you that we live in a system where we've created a pipeline known as the school to prison pipeline. If I had more time, I'd break this down to you, but there's money being made on both sides of this. Immigrants are not stealing our jobs. It's prison labor. Just Google that if you want to see what companies use prison labor and pay them nothing. But who cares? They're white folks. I'm not white. Our cops beat their asses all the time for whatever, because it's kind of what black cops do to poor white people. Yeah, white folks are taking to the microphone, and they're writing pencils and the camera, and they're saying, hey, stop doing this stuff, stop beating us, stop putting your knees on our necks, they're stop hurting us. You know what they're writing, what they're saying. They're screaming and they're yelling, white lives matter, right? White lives matter. But Liz Mason, my favorite friend, you know what we, the ruling black class, say in response to that, though, right? You know what we, the black folks, say. Of course, we say, all lives matter. And I have an uncle, his name is Tom, and he always says, blue lives matter. Now, he beat the hell out of somebody who didn't deserve it, killed him, didn't have a weapon, but somehow blue lives matter. Well, cool. As long as it's protecting me, the ruling black class, I don't care too much about what they do. All lives matter, right? But white folks have made some progress. White folks have had the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Non-Colored People. They've had affirmative action, and they even have 44. You guys know who 44 is, right? You know who 44 is, right? Who's 44? Donna, who's 44? Come on, Donna, who's 44? Donna Lillian from come on, Donna. We
Obama.
gave them a guy. His name is not Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Jessica, you want to tell, what is it, Jessica?
Well, it is Barack Obama, but I can't make
Not Barack Obama, that's
tell
a
me
black
who it
name.
is.
Jessica, we're pretending here, right? Not
I got
Barack
it.
Obama. We gave them
Osama.
Barry O'Connor. And Mr. O'Connor, Jessica, he and his wife have the audacity of hope, and Michelle, and they're gonna go and change and do all this amazing things, the hope we change we want to see, and all this bullshit. Whatever. Like white folks are asking for too much stuff, man. White folks want too much. They're trying to get us to do too much. So we, the ruling black class, need to find a way of regaining power and control. So what do? Well, I got an idea. We got a guy, right? We got a guy. We got a guy who likes to hang out in the locker rooms and grab women by we got a guy. This is our guy. And President Kanye West is going to make America great again. He's gonna build a border wall so those white Canadian devils can't bring their rapists and drug dealers into our country. He's gonna make sure all the Jews stay over in their shitholes with the other Europeans. He's gonna make sure that those that try to cross our border aren't able to. He's going to put all the white folks here back in their trailer parks. He's going to make America black again. He's going to do it, and he's true to his word. This is not a hollow cause, or he's true to his word. This is no cause he's making up. He's making good statements and true statements, because I don't know if you recall seeing a picture where a woman was on the border trying to cross that border with 2 babies in diapers, when this president ordered that they be gassed by law enforcement. I'm not sure if you saw that picture, but he's not making up some stuff that he's not doing. These are not hollow words that he's using. he's true to his cause. These aren't hollow words, y'all. He's true to his cause in this America. This is no hollow cause. Or at least maybe you might argue that it seems like we're gassing white women and their babies like we've done before. But this is no hollow cost. At least black man and black men's America would never say that it is a hollow cost. Did that shit even really happen to beginning in the first place? My friends who've signed up for this brave leadership, if I were to step out of this character for just a moment, and if I were to suggest to you all, my friends, that this is the true history of America, that this is how America has been designed, and if I were to say to you in this reality of America that white folks have had nearly 60 years of progress, what is that in comparison to nearly 600 years of black folks being in control? What is that in comparison to a system being designed where blacks have had control and designed this system for them and their benefit for 600 years? And in a system where blacks have had control for 600 years and where they reign supreme, might we call this a system of black? A system of black supremacy. Pray tell, who has the advantage? Who has the upper hand? Who gets the job? Who gets passed when they've been drinking and driving, stopped by a cop, not arrested? Who gets stopped just for being driving while white? Who gets beat up? Who doesn't? Who gets the loan? Who doesn't? Who named Boquisha gets the job over someone named Lindsay who doesn't get the job? Because we don't like that name Lindsay because it doesn't sound like one of our. In this system, who has the advantage, the benefit, or the privilege? Clearly, it would be that of black privilege. But y'all know I'm lying to you because there ain't no such thing as black privilege. President Kanye West, thank God, or any of that other stuff, right? This is the system that we live in here in America. And it's a system of racism that I'm presenting to you at this notion. And this is the best definition I've ever heard or read about racism. And it's a system of structuring opportunity and assigning value based on the way someone looks. It's a system of structuring opportunity and assigning value based on the social interpretation of how one looks. I don't have time to break this down as I would like as a former professor. So I'm gonna focus on one word, and that one word is, it's a system. Racism is a system. Do we honestly think, those of you on this call, that white men are that much better, bigger, brighter, smarter than the black men who marched the streets in protest? Are we willing to say that these folks are smarter, better, bigger, brighter, and all the way just more superior to the folks in this skin color and this thing who are marching in this way? Are we willing to say that black folks are inferior to white folks? Or is there a system that gives one an advantage over the other? Pray tell for a moment. Think about people in your own companies. We all work together, I know. But think about people that you might work with, people that you've grown up with, who seem to get advanced opportunities, not because they're better, bigger, brighter, and smarter, but because of who they know or how they play the game. And are they better, bigger, brighter, and smarter than these folks? Are these people inferior? Am I inferior to anybody on this call? Or is there just a sense of a system that advantages some over the others? I'm going to take a step here and take this one step beyond race. And I want to take this to that of gender. Now, I may not use all the appropriate terms. I'm a black dude, so I'm just going to kind of use black dude terms, which is my way of saying if I fuck up, it's on me. I didn't mean to do it. I just don't know all the words. So, but when it comes to gender or sexism or whatever the modern terms might be, I want to present this idea to you. This woman is named Miss Morrison. She was the CEO of Campbell's when she got canned or fired. And this statement was in the article that I read about her. Women are penalized more than men for negative performance and rewarded less for positive performance, this study showed. Just by a show of hands, how many of you all would agree with this statement? Women are penalized more and rewarded less. Most of y'all, everyone's kind of agreeing with that? Well, I don't agree with this statement. I don't agree with this statement at all. I don't agree. I'm gonna have to kind of show you how and why I don't agree. Let me try to find, this is kind of hard on Zoom. I've never done it over Zoom. So let me try to use these two things. Yeah, you can see this, cool. So women are penalized more than men for negative performance and rewarded less for positive performance. What this statement is simply showing, if this block could be men, because we're blockheads, this piece of paper can be a woman, right? And if I were to put these folks like straight, if you could see them straight, like they're straight, like this is forward, this is back. What this statement is saying, that for a man and a woman in executive C-suite positions, both did the same bad thing. The man would be told to take one step back. The woman would be told to take 2 or 3 steps back, right? In essence, for this statement to work, for women to be penalized more, they have to both kind of, you know, be penalized once and then 2 or 3 times more, or arguably the other way around. If this, hopefully this will make sense. For women to be rewarded less, that would mean they're both, again, on a straight line, and a man and woman both do the same thing, but because this guy has male genitalia, he takes 3 steps forward. Because this person has female genitalia and is rewarded less, it's to take 1 step forward. That's how this statement would be true, if it were to be true. If you guys are following me, I'm struggling with it, but you know, what this statement is saying is that women are penalized more, men are rewarded less. If that were true, then lawyers would have been suing these companies all day long, saying, listen, you had a man and a woman, the man got to take 1 step back, the woman 3 steps back. That's not fair. We're gonna sue you because there's money there. Lawyers aren't suing companies for this. Because what I want to suggest to you, that this statement is not accurate. Because for this statement to be accurate, that women are penalized more or rewarded less, we must be assuming one major thing, that women and men are starting in the same place. That in this system, men and women start at the same place. And what I want to suggest to you is that men and women, because of this system, do not start in the same place. The system isn't designed for that. Let me show you very quickly. Women make 85 cents to every man's dollar. Women make less for doing the same job. So a woman, take a step back. Women are asked to be on boards less than men, take a step back. 1 in 2 women have experienced sexual harassment during their lifetime, physical, sexual violence by the age of 15, and partner violence. So I mean, that's more steps back. Women, when they're pregnant, get discriminated against more than men. So take more steps back, and I don't have much space on my little Zoom screen, right? I might have to stand up. Women, I mean, like, so as you can tell, the more and more we go over these particular things here, women are having to take more steps back. Let me draw one more that's maybe helpful. Women live longer than men. All right, good. So take a step forward. Women are much less safe in public or at night than men, which means women can't really stay late at work, right? Because they have to walk to their car, it could be danger. So take a step back. Women are educated more than men, that's true. Take a step forward. Women are unemployed more than men, have less income than men, and have less savings than men. And so what we have is a system that looks a lot like this. So where the man down here and the woman here are not on the same starting line. And so when they get rewarded, they both take a step forward or both take many steps back. And when we look at it as if she was rewarded less or punished more, when it's not the case. Let me give you a real life work example. As a lawyer, let's say Lindsay and Daniel both work for me, right? We're all lawyers in my firm. And Daniel comes to me after work. Hey boss, hey listen man, you wanna go grab a beer, strip club, go golfing or something, whatever guys do, right? And I have this idea I want to talk to you about. And I'm like, yeah, Daniel, that sounds like a good idea. And Lindsay, his office partner, she can't come with us because Lindsay has to go home to take care of the kids or the dogs, or to make dinner for the husband, or has like a second job because she doesn't have enough money. So Lindsay can't come along with us because the system isn't designed to give her the same freedom or equality as Daniel has. So Daniel and I go to the strip bar. There aren't any in Boone. So let's just say we go to Walmart, right? And while we're hanging out at Walmart, Daniel, says, hey man, here's an idea that I have. And he's like, man, here's my idea, boss. And here's how we could win that case, boss. And I come to work the next day and I argue that in front of a judge and I win the case. And I'm like, Daniel, it worked, man. Hey, other partners, we need to give Daniel a new job opportunity. We need to, reward Daniel for his accomplishment here. Daniel, you're now being moved to an equity partner. Meanwhile, Lindsay, who really it was her idea all the way, never was in the room to begin with, in the way that this system is designed. If you don't think men have an advantage over women in corporate America, or even education America, then I think, you're not really paying attention. But I know I'm talking to a group of folks that do recognize this, right? I know I'm talking to folks that see the inequities and the inequalities and are determined to do something. But what I'm suggesting to you is that at the top of the screen in lane number 1, that may be Asian or minority or just women in general. In lane number 2, if I'm honest with you, is a white male in a two-tone or two-piece suit, black pants and a blue jacket. That tends to be poor white men. Because if I'm very honest with you, the system that I'm talking to you about benefits middle class and upper class white males, right? There's other parts to this, not the poor white men. Lane number 3 is the traditional middle class, upper class white male who is ahead. Lane 4 are women, lane 5 are elderly men. Older men, older people don't have the same advantages. And then lane number 6 is the brothers, whoever brothers, black, brown, whatever, right? This is the way America has been designed. This is the way America has been designed, but this is not an assault on white men. This is not to take over as a revolution, because I'm not a believer of revolution. Revolution is the word re-evolve. Tires go through revolutions, if you know this word. What it means is to go in circles, A revolution means to go in circles. A revolution in history is the violent taking by force by a group of people from a government, right? I'm not advocating for a revolution. What I am advocating for, though, with Brave Leadership is recreation. Recreation. Listen, if there's an education that worked for Tucson, mentoring that worked for Tucson, job access and opportunity that worked for Tucson, if there are things that work for Tucson, if there are things that work for Christine, there are things that have worked for us, then why don't we recreate this for others? Why don't we take what we've learned and produce and reproduce that for someone else? I'm currently working with Booneshine. They're going to get many of their East Boone companies together. I'm working with the Carolina Panthers and Bank of America, and we're going to go over to Bradford Park, or Bradford, where the trailer park community is. I was driving by there one day. I saw it. My heart dropped because I hadn't seen it up here. So I pulled into the trailer park community and sat there on top of my truck, just figuring out what was going on. Luckily, I didn't get shot or picked up or harassed. I mean, people look at me now like, dude, what were you doing? Like, I didn't know, man. These are my people. Like, I want to create what we are doing successfully here for them. And what if App State, many of you on this call, decided to take educational resources and tutoring and whatever else to this community and not have a revolution, but have a recreation? I'm getting to this idea of brave leadership. Wanting, at least in this first half, to kind of show you what it means, what the system is, and why you need brave leadership. But there was this thing called the Great Boston Fire of 1872, and in 1872, this fire decimated and destroyed the entire city. And along comes a little city, a little town where these folks got together that were living in this community, and they got together and said, hey man, what do we do? How do we rebuild? Like, we can't go, we're fishermen. So we can't go, west from this area because there's nowhere to fish. We can't go north because we're not welcome further up north, and we can't go south because the people down south are crazy, right? So as they sat together in this little room and they talked about where they would go and how they would change things, one little man stood up, and it looked, as for me in my mind, like a picture of a Norman Rockwell painting, where this man stood up and everyone turned in their pews and looked at him as he began to talk. And what he said is, well, let's go east. And they're like, dude, we can't go east. What are you crazy? Like, that's the ocean. We can't go east. What do you propose we do? Move a mountain? And he said, yeah. That's exactly what I propose that we do. He spoke to them about his idea, and what they ended up doing was building train tracks from this edge of the earth, right, where the ocean met the land, and they built train tracks all the way up to this mountain range. And they took a train up there, and they would take shovels and put the shovels of dirt into this train, and they would whistle while they worked. They worked while they whistled, and they did this for years, where they would take dirt from this mountain, take it all the way back to the ocean and dump it in, and they would go back, get more dirt. And they did this until eventually, years later, they saw a peak of dirt coming out of the ocean. They got excited because they knew they were close, and they kept doing it. So eventually they spread this dirt out all over this area, and then they built a stadium for a really bad baseball team. They built Logan International Airport, and there's all this other stuff. I don't know if you realize that the city of Boston was built because people moved mountains. Pebble by pebble. The Great Boston Fire of 1872 destroyed Boston, but these people got together and literally moved a mountain to rebuild. We are in a rebuilding recreational type of environment. I wonder, for those of you on this call, which one of you is going to lead and where we go next? Tim Cook, take your microphone off mute. I need to talk to you real quick. Be my guinea pig. I know Tim knows everything, one of the smartest men in the world. At least he would tell you so. Just kidding you, my friend. Come on, man, laugh. Come on, laugh. So quick question. Spell the word leader for me.
Leader.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Leader.
No, I still can't hear you, man. Let me mess with Dr. Vest. Dr. Vest, please, sir. Will you please turn your microphone on? Another smart man thinks he's smarter than Tim, but we're not gonna start any fights on this Zoom call. Dr. Vest, Brad, my friend, how do you spell the word leader?
U.S. Us. It's going to take us.
Do you guys hear him? Because I can't hear him.
It's going to take us to lead. It's going to start with us. Someone's got to ignite it, and we gotta go. We gotta do this.
Yeah. So just spell the word leader, sir. Follow directions here. Just spell the word leader.
U.S. Us.
No, that's the word us. I may need someone else. Let me look for other people that can help out here. No, just kidding. Come on, man. Just spell the word leader.
Leader.
Good. And what are the four most important letters in that word leader?
Lead. Lead.
Word. That's the word, kind sir. What are the letters, the four most important letters in that word?
Lead.
Yeah. It is. It's Lead. Because that's what this is all about. It's not about Leader. It's not about the noun, Leader. It's about the verb, Lead. It's not about Tucson, who has this title in his office with whatever, letters after his name. It's not about me, the noun, but it's about me and what I do. This word Lead helps to connect me, though, eventually to my ship with the ER. The Lead, the ER connects me to my ship. When I Lead, the ER connects me to my ship. When I do good things, I will have good and positive results. When I Lead, the ER connects me to my ship. You know, that ship that leaves port and travels the world carrying precious cargo and helps people around the world. When I Lead, when I do the right thing, it helps me have good results. When I Lead, the ER connects me to my ship. What I'm suggesting to you on this call is when I Lead, the ship is my result. And this is the very notion of the word leadership. How many of you are doing anything? right now? How many of you are LEAD? All of you guys are LEAD ERs, but how many of you are actually LEAD? JFK once said, one person can make a difference and everyone should try. One person can make a difference, everyone should try. Are you that one person? I've been a part of 15 protests around this nation since 1993. Also was involved in a protest in Germany when neo-Nazis marched against whatever the opposite of that is, right? And there's one black dude in the middle saying, stop. Whether it was leaving the gym and working, whether it was being captured on CNN, standing in between police officers and protesters and telling protesters to back up, do this the right way, and then pushing cops over and say, get the fuck back, which I did. LEAD, where I was called upon up here in Boone, and this is a really poor image now that I see it, but this was in Boone. This was on King Street. And Raheem Andrews called me up and said, man, I need you to come speak. And I said, no, man, I can't. Because this time around, I'm tired of doing this stuff, man. I'm tired of talking and trying to make a change. I'm tired of LEADing. I'd rather get my AR-15s and just walk down the street and be shot and killed. Because then maybe other folks would want to LEAD. But I was so moved and impressed with this young man's heart who said, I want to march with officers and protesters. So moved by that, by the way he was LEADing, that I said, I need to jump in. I need to help. But this is from a person in a white shirt who doesn't want to be out front. This is from a 22, 23-year-old kid who's just graduating college, trying to figure out where he goes with life. But look beyond the two of us to all of these people in this picture here in Boone, Watauga County, North Carolina. My question again is, which one of you will LEAD? Which one of you is going to have brave leadership? The system is messed up. But one person can make a difference and everyone should try. Just by a show of hands, how many of you have ever seen this picture before? Just put your hands, yeah. This is a guy named Tank Man, circa 1989, Tiananmen Square. Chinese government was killing Chinese protesters. You've seen this picture, but by a show of hands, how many of you have seen this picture? You realize this is the very same picture. Down at the bottom of the screen towards the left, in front of tank number 1 is Tank Man. Then tank 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to the top of the picture, hundreds more tanks. These are soldiers on their knees and sitting back in a compound. So listen, it's a system that one person can stand in front of, because for me, it was never just about George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, Keith Lamont Scott. That's the tip of the iceberg. There's a system when it comes to racial justice and criminal justice that I've been fighting. I wonder, what system are you fighting? What system will brave leadership be a requirement for you to change? Last couple pictures, and then I may answer some questions. These are people in my life that I know, that I've met, who've exemplified brave leadership. This is a guy, his name is Julian Bond. He was a founder of SNCC, which was a group that marched with Dr. King. Julian Bond, Robert Lewis, as you may know. Well, Julian Bond became a leader afterwards. And when I was in law school, this is him, he was my mentor. And he would say to me, man, listen, don't try to do big, amazing, beautiful, bright things, bro. All he did, Julian Bond did, was get people to sign up to vote, to register to vote. It was so powerful back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, so powerful that he became an LEAD ER because of how he LEAD. This woman is named Dorothy Counts Scott. She was the first African-American female, black female to integrate the schools in Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system. And she's been fighting for integration and equal school systems all of her life. I get to call her auntie. We go on family vacations together. during Black History Month, she'll come to my backyard in Charlotte and she'll sit around the fire pit with my 10-year-old daughter. And like, my daughter will interview her for like stories that she gets to then take back to school and say, this is my auntie, someone who LEAD. This woman in the middle is Rosa Parks. And I lived with her for a week. That's me all the way on the end of that big brown heavy jacket, trying to be cool. That's my mama's shirt. That's my sister's jacket, but I was trying to be cool because I was with Rosa. I was trying to look good. And I wish I could tell you the true story about Rosa Parks. She never sat in the front of a bus, never refused to get up for a white man. But she had volunteered and helped so many people that when she got into some trouble, everyone signed up to come and help her. If I could ask, has anyone ever helped you in life? And if they were ever in trouble, would you be there to help them? Well, how many people across our country are in trouble? How many of those people need you to LEAD? Nancy Brinker, she made the NFL pink. I'm going to skip over that one. Johnny Cochran was working for federal prosecutors. And I know he was OJ's lawyer. I was too young to really get OJ, so say what you want to say about it, about him. But he came to Charlotte and was, as the prosecutors I was working for, prosecuted a boxer named Riddick Bowe. Anyway, long story short, Johnny Cochran says to me after the case is over, after he won, "Hey kid, what are you doing here, man? I've seen you here every day. What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Hey man, you know, I want to be a lawyer one day, man. I mean, look, he said to me something to the effect of, well, hey man, you know, I believe in you, or you can do it. I'm like, we need you. I don't remember what he said to me because I was so excited that the most powerful Black lawyer in the world just told me that I could be like him. My friends, how many of you are using your privilege to help others? Brave leadership, recreation. LEAD. How many of you are telling folks that they can be just like you, if not better? That's what brave leadership is requiring of us. These are the sons, I'm going to skip through these. These are the sons from Brown versus Board of Education. These kids, there was a couple of cases, but these kids, I had a chance to sit down with them and talk to them about what their father did to help allow me to be in this school now with you. Right? This is Hugh McCall. He's the owner, founder of Bank of America. I have breakfast with him once a month, and I introduce him to different folks in the community, kids from the streets who would never have access to him. And I get a chance to bring those kids from the streets and introduce them to him. They pitch their ideas, political or nonprofit, and he strokes really big checks for them if he likes their ideas. We now have people who would never have access to him getting that access and changing their life. It's simply the notion of recreation, recreation. This woman is named Shirley Chisholm. She was a congresswoman from Brooklyn, New York. She was the first woman to ever run for president. First Black person to ever run for president as well. And this is my father. Shirley Chisholm is in the middle. That's my mother on the other side. My father, being from the islands, we're island folk. The man had a lot of jobs and a lot of things, right? And one of them was he owned a ballroom in Brooklyn, New York. And Shirley Chisholm used my dad's ballroom as her headquarters. So I'm sitting down at dinner tables every night listening to Shirley Chisholm talk, right? This guy is named David Dinkins. He was the mayor of New York City before Giuliani. David Dinkins is my godfather. This guy was some guy that I met when I was in Chicago. I was clerking for a judge. And we connected. He said, hey man, let's have dinner. We had dinner, I had a dinner. Before I finished law school, I was like, look man, I'm going to DC. You should come along with me, he said. I said, nah man, I gotta go to Charlotte. So I get to be a public defender and I get to fight for the rights of people that have no freedom and no voice. I get to go be a champion for this system. I gotta recreate what worked for you and I. He gave me a cell phone number and said, stay in touch. And I went to Charlotte. And in 2016, after nearly a long time of being there was a protest that occurred. And in that protest, the camera was trying to make it a violent situation. And so the second night, or maybe the third night, I said to everyone there, hey, lock up, join arms. And we joined arms. And for the next 2 weeks, we marched around uptown Charlotte without another sign of violence, without any violence, without any cops. All I did in this picture was LEAD. It was brave. Man, we have the fall starting soon, where we're going to have an election cycle and a lot of different groups on campus going at each other's throats. This Saturday, there's a Back the Blue movement by a church group that was supposed to be on campus, but will no longer be on campus. But now we have a Back the Blue versus Black Lives Matter. We have other issues on our campus that are both race related and sex or gender related. And yet Dr. King, while he was alive, said he was tired. I don't know if you realize or know what this is a picture of, but it's Lorraine Motel, 1968. And this man is scraping up the blood of his hero. This man is scraping up the blood of Dr. King. And I'm sure he was whispering in his head, I was born down by the river in a little old tent. And just like that river, my mind and my heart has been running ever since. It's been a long time coming. And I know a change is gonna come. I asked my brother to help me, please. My brother keeps winding up, knocking me back on my knees. It's been a long time coming. I know a change is gonna come. And I wonder which of you on this call will that change come through? Which one of you is the one that will help us LEAD? Brave leadership forces you to look at yourself more closely than ever before. You're needed, y'all. You guys are needed. Every single one of you is needed. You're not too white, you're not too female, you're not too old, you're not too young, you're not too black, you're not too whatever. You are needed. And the you that I'm referring to is that LEAD. But it will require you to be brave, to be your true, authentic self, to be your true, powerful self, and to be the true, confident self. Because that's the only way we're ever going to recreate the opportunities that allow us to be privileged on this call today, to allow others to have access to the same privilege. So thank you for sticking with me for as long as you have. I think there's about 5 minutes for questions, I guess. Tim and Dr. Vest aren't allowed to ask questions because I might have been messing with them and don't want them to get me back. But I really, really hope that at least one of you on this call is the one that will show brave leadership, what LEA do, and will recreate what we need in our country. Because as you can tell, there are a lot of people ready to follow you. So thanks. Lindsay, I know we're going till 2, right? I don't have much more at this point. I wanted to respect our time together.
Yeah, if anyone wants to hang around and ask Toussaint any questions, you're welcome to. Thank you again, Toussaint, so much for your message and your words and your.
Yeah, for sure.
As a reminder, we're having the next session is at 2, so if you need to jump off and join the next session, please do. And then we also have a wrap-up reflection at 3 o'clock that we hope you'll all join. So I'll stop the recording now, but if anyone wants to hang around to ask Toussaint questions, you're welcome to. So thank you.